Well, this is part two of a little video about building hex beam and also something about my own life history or background as X-ray whiskey 0 Lima Papa in Laos and X-ray Zulu 2 Alpha in Myanmar and some other reminiscences. I bought a nice sharp saw to cut off the other 5 bamboo beams, but I just thought I'd show you as I'm in my garden. I'll show you my current HF antenna setup, which doesn't look very impressive, but seems to work reasonably well. Firstly, on the ground, I don't know if you can see, there's a red ground radial. I've got different ground radials running across the garden. They're not buried, there's no point, I don't need to bury them. This blue plastic water pipe, if you can see, there's a white wire, goes up to a very messy loading coil and then up into the tree, and somewhere at the top, before you get to the top of the tree, there's a 12-meter spider beam antenna mast. So that is my quarter wave loaded vertical for 160 meters. The same thing applies for this one over here, this water pipe. This is the same thing for 80 meters, a quarter wave vertical, yeah, with a ground plane going up into the tree. And then finally there are some more fan wires for the higher bands. There's about 2 or 3 others here which are tuned for different bands. I think right now there's a 10 meter, 12 meter and 40 meter wires. So for these high bands, my intention is to try to exchange those for the hex beam, but still keep my antennas for 80 meters and for top band until I can change them for something better, if I can. There's a very big common mode choke for top band, and then there's some more ferrite here, or everything to try to stop RF coming up my coaxial feed line. Coax feed line is 75 ohms satellite TV coax because it's all I can buy. And as for the bamboo, well, it's over there. Can you see if I just walk over towards it? Yeah, here's a nice bamboo. So there are about 5 branches left, so I'm going to use my saw, cut those off, and then carry on with making my hex beam. Right, let's set to work. Right, now, while I'm cutting down or looking after those new bamboo spreaders, I thought I'd continue just with some more reminiscences and musings about my background, which is maybe interesting to some. I explained that I was a satellite systems engineer in the space industry, but I also, about 25 years ago, just when mobile phones were starting, I had my own business, one-man band business. And I wrote artificial intelligence chat software for text messaging, yeah, where you could chat with someone who you thought was a real person, but it was actually my computer program. Now, at the time, that was quite advanced technology for mobile phones, and the BBC did a review, and they said it was the best AI software, chat software that they had ever found. It fooled many people into thinking it was a real person. As you might guess, the actual kind of chat wasn't about the weather, to put it bluntly, and it might shock a lot of people who thought they were chatting with a pretty young lady. In fact, found they were, well, they probably don't even know, they were chatting with my AI software. Anyway, I was quite well off as a result of that, and when I came to Thailand, I had money to build some small hotels, and life was going okay. Except, unfortunately, my new Thai wife, now what's the medical condition called? Completely balmy, completely bonkers. Unfortunately, she was completely balmy, absolutely crazy, and she, with great gusto and very efficiently, she managed to run the businesses into the ground, and destroyed my hotel businesses, and actually left me completely penniless, or you might say bartless, the Thai baht. So I was actually right down on my luck in Thailand, which is one reason why I actually moved over to Myanmar to get a salary to start trying to put that awful time behind me. It wasn't all bad in Thailand. You know, I operated my ham radio at times and had great fun, mostly operating mobile, and that was all great fun. When I moved to Myanmar and I started teaching at the school, the international school, I had a decent salary, and life was reasonably good. Sorry, I stopped because this is quite emotional. One day, at the weekend, I went out to explore, and there were very, very few foreigners living in Yangon at the time. And I took the local ferry over the river in Yangon to a township called Dala Township. Some Myanmar Burmese friends of mine told me not to go there. They said it was a dangerous place, which made it more interesting for me to go there. I went over on the ferry, and there was a teenage boy with a pedalo, which is one of these three-wheeled bicycles where you can sit in it, you know, a bit like, I suppose, China from many years ago, and they'll pedal you around for a small amount of money. And so I said, well, you know, pedal me around and I'll take some photos for half a day. So he pedaled me around Dala Township, and it changed my life. I had been used to seeing poor people in North Thailand, for example, but I had never met the level of poverty of people who were living in Dala Township. Many people in simple bamboo huts, for want of a better word. And there had been recent floods, so their huts were half underwater, but they were still having to live in them. And we came to a monastery, and I could hear kids talking at the monastery and chanting. So I went to have a look. And it was an empty room, no electricity, no tables, no chairs. The young kids were sitting on the floor while a Burmese volunteer teacher was teaching them Burmese language and I think a little maths as well. And I thought about my own background. Yeah, my fairly privileged background of when I was in the UK and, you know, driving a Mercedes-Benz four-wheel drive and having a big house. And I thought, I'm never, ever going to complain again that my life, you know, that I haven't been lucky in life. And if I can do something to put this right, I'm going to do what I can. So straight away, I offered to volunteer to teach English every weekend to these kids. And so I used to go over on the ferry every weekend. And the teenage boy would take me in his pedalo, yeah, for a little money. And then I'd take my laptop computer and posters, I'd stick them on the wall. And we would learn English, we'd practice English with the kids for about an hour and a half until the batteries on my laptop ran out because there was no power in the building. And that was the end of the lesson. There were about 100 children in that classroom, in that empty room, aged from about, 5 years old up to 12 years old. None of them spoke any English. I had to, in order to communicate, I very rapidly sat down in my apartment in Yangon and learned some basic Myanmar, Burmese language, so I could give instructions to these children. And so we used to have the lesson, which was great fun, lots of singing, songs and nursery rhymes, and the youngest kids would fall asleep on the floor, and the older kids, some of the boys would play around. But it was absolutely great fun. And it convinced me that, my life had changed. And if I could do what I can to help others, if life had been good to me because I'd got this job in Yangon and I had managed to get away from my completely balmy, nutty wife in Thailand, then I was gonna pay that back. Yeah. So there's a little bit about what I started doing in Yangon. And how it completely changed my life. And I'll tell you a bit more about how I took that idea further in the next couple of years I'll talk about that maybe in the next, a little later on, or maybe in part 3. Right, I think back to the hex beam. Well, just to show you how I'm going with the construction of my hex beam, I've actually put one spreader on to the center hub. I need to get some more little clips to make sure it's firm there, and then it's got the tensioning string here. It actually seems quite solid, it's quite firm. So what I'm going to do, I've also, by the way, put some nice thick varnish all over the bamboo to protect it from the weather and from termites. So there's the first one. There's another spreader there waiting to be installed. Let me show you the rest. Wait a minute. Now, I'm sure when you buy your hex beam kit, it doesn't look anything like this. Here are some bamboo poles that I've just sawn off a tree. There's 3 long poles that are going to work fine for this beam. I need 6 spreaders. I've only really got 5. The 6th one is this rather wimpy thin one here. As my bamboo tree doesn't have any more branches on it, I'm going to make do with this rather thin spreader for number 6. I might have to splice a bit of thicker bamboo onto it to make it sturdy enough, but I think it's going to be fine. I mean, it's only one of the spreaders, and the other 5 are quite strong and adequate. So there we are. That's my hex beam kit there. Moment. So here we are. I've cut all my bamboo poles. I've cut off all the leaves and tiny little branches, and I'm busy painting varnish on them. So you can see over here, there's a pole there waiting to dry. Well, it's already dry actually, with lots of varnish. There's the pole that's already attached to the base. And then there's another one here. And this is the one that's rather special because, as you see, it's got a joint in the middle. And that's because it wasn't actually long enough for a spreader for the hex beam. So I had to add on an extra piece from another bamboo pole that I had at the bottom. What I should say is this is not just sort of a connecting piece of PVC water pipe in the middle. The actual 2 pieces of bamboo meet in the middle. This is like a collar. So this is a collar just holding them together. So I've still got the strength of, most of the strength from the 2 bamboo poles. I'm not relying on strength from this PVC tube as a spreader. So I've still got some varnishing to do, haven't I? So I'll carry on with that, get them all varnished, and then start trying to put everything together.